All right, today's session is to see how far we can get with all of our forms as close to production ready as we can. So I want to show you the power of leveraging groups, because several of you that are on this call are in this group that we started to create, and I'm sure we're going to have to edit those groups. So I'm going to show you that real quick. And anytime you think of people, right, and we're in TD admin, so just again for your navigation, this is the main page of TD admin, and a lot of the configuration and setup of items are done either here or inside your applications. And a lot of what we're doing is inside the student services application and the client portal. But from a people perspective, users and roles is where we're at, and we're talking about groups. And we're leveraging these groups for assigning responsibility for these tickets, right, and for these forms. And the one that we are leveraging is the accounts and records that I just have A&R. So I can edit this name and put, I'm sorry, I use the word accounts and records, and should be admissions and records, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is this the right terminology? Okay. It's an active group, and you can see it has 5 people in it, right? And if I click on here, I can see who are the current 5 people. I know Vicky's on the call, Isabel, Daniel, Cynthia. I don't know if Edgar joined yet or not, but you 5 are on this call, or I'm sorry, in this group, and we can add members to it, but I'll show you where you are going to come into play in this. In most of our workflows, the first step is either an approval or a review step that the admissions and records folks need to do. Hence, I created a group because, again, I'll show you that in student services, in your forms, and again, our forms that we have are all named the 5 that we're working on. So for example, in the AB 540 form that captures all of those fields that we've been looking at, one of these fields here is a responsible field, and I pre-populated it with A&R, which now maps to admissions and records, right? So that means that you guys are the responsible person for this ticket when it comes in. So when we start looking at test tickets, we'll start in a few minutes. You guys are all going to get pinged with emails potentially, and we'll see where that happens. So if you need to edit that group and put more people in it, or use this responsible field on a form for other groups, you can always switch it out for the appropriate group who is responsible for that. And those show up in here, and I'll just switch it so that so where this also plays into effect, so this is our form, and that responsible field with admissions and records in it is on all 5 of these forms. This AB 540, petition to challenge, petition to repeat, residency questionnaire, and the verification of enrollment. If down the road another department or another group or another type of ticket, let's say an IT help desk form, let's say you guys created a form for the IT help desk for whatever, or some sort of IT specific service, then you could create a different group, or one of your existing groups could be leveraged. You could create the help desk group, right, and add members appropriately there. And in that responsible field on that form, you would put the help desk group, because they're the ones that are going to be responsible for that type of ticket. I just wanted to let you folks know that you're going to be listed as responsible because you're part of this group. So hopefully that makes sense. So far, so good. Where that also comes into play is on your workflows in your workflow steps. So again, in student services, because that's the application that our workflow is in, Our workflows are down here. We have 6 workflows. One is an old one that I worked this summer with James and Jonathan, but these other 5 map to what we've been working on. And for example, the residency questionnaire workflow, when I view the builder, the very first step, let me check this out. And I wanted to show you this anyway because we could combine these 2 steps here, but we could make them different. And I'll tell you why you might want to consider combining them or leave them as is. But this follows the workflow that Jonathan sent me for the residency questionnaire. And his very first task, which a lot of them are, is that somebody in the A&R admissions and I'm sorry, am I using the wrong term? Admissions and records. Admissions and records. This is a task step, right? Responsible role is the responsible field mapping on that form. What does that mean? That means the admissions and records is listed in the responsible field here. So all 5 of you are technically responsible for this ticket when it gets submitted, right? So I'm mapping it to a role, which is mapping it to the group. So that's what this assigned to a role. If I assign to a specific resource here, that means I'm assigning it to an individual name like James or Jonathan or Vicky. Most likely you don't want to make it single threaded that way to one individual, right? Most of the time on your forms, you want to make it dynamic so that the role is churning out who is going to get that ticket. So just remember where this comes into play when we see it on the ticket, and I'll circle back to that so it kind of ties all of this together. So this particular workflow, when this ticket gets generated, there's going to be a task step that that group that's responsible for it, the admissions and records group, is going to review it. On that step, they're going to mark it complete, which is part of the instructions on the step. And this was pulled right from your guys' workflow. Note, mark task completed when review is done. Right, we'll see that on the ticket in a minute. When you mark it complete, it's going to go to the same group, right, for the approval step, because in this particular service request, it's not going to somebody else to approve it. It's you guys and admissions and records are going to approve it. So again, here, it's an approval step. Again, the role is the people or group listed in the responsible field on the form. That's what it's pulling from. So that would be essentially that same group. That's why you could potentially combine those 2 steps, but I like keeping them separate just so you understand the chronology of what you're going to be doing. And we'll see that again on the ticket. If it's approved, it's going to go to a task step that, again, this is all everybody in the admissions and records is going to be doing, right? And you guys are going to do this task here, which is you're going to update the student as a resident with the description, again, that came from your workflow. Once again, it's going to leverage the people or group listed in the responsible role to do this. So you're going to have 3 things in a row that you're going to be doing: reviewing it, approving it, and updating it either as a resident or, if it gets rejected, as a non-resident. At the same time, when this happens, this approval happens, this student notification of approval gets sent out, or the notification of rejection gets sent out. This is the part where I need the wording from you all, not only on these 2 approvals and rejections, but on all of the other 4 workflows as well. Because as Melody mentioned before, there's HTML in here, and I have just a real bare bones message. And I'm sure you guys would want to wordsmith a little bit more. So that's another piece of homework that I have for you all, is to either edit this in here if you feel comfortable coming into this workflow where I'm coming in and doing the HTML in here, or feel free to send me your text that you would like, and I will put it in this form for you. Does that make sense? Because there's probably some actions that you might want them to take, whether it's approved or rejected, or next steps or contact information that I just don't know about that wasn't clear on your forms and your workflow. Yep. This sends the email notification out to the student. So if we go back to the high level, so this would be an email notification
Perfect. Can it
to
be
the
separate ones? Like if there's one for the reject, we have a separate template from the one that's approved?
Yep, that's what these two are. This
Okay.
one's the student notification of approval,
All
and
right.
this one is the student notification of rejection. So there
Perfect.
would be certainly two different messages in here. This one would be the positive one, right? Yay, it's approved. I'll go all the way out. We can start from the beginning. We're going to go to the home page, TD admin homepage. I always forget that it pulls me out of there. So when you guys go to imperial.teamdynamix.com/TD admin, you're going to land here. And you're going to need to go into your applications because this is in the student services ticketing application is where your workflows are. So applications, student services, in the left navigation, alphabetically, are workflows. In our workflows, here's our 5. You need to go into each one of them. And I'll go into a different one here. You're going to view the builder. You are going to file and check out, which will allow you to edit it. And then you have your 2 notification steps, approval and rejection. Then you're just going to come in and you're going to edit, and you are going to edit the subject and the body. And your tags are available here, your HTML tags that you can use for the requester's name and the responsible group. But you might want things down here like next steps, please contact information embedded in here. So you're going to edit the subject, you're going to edit the body. You can use template tags as needed, and then generate the preview. If it looks the way you're expecting it, then hit the save button. This is a help button if you're like, what's going on here? This will help you understand what you can do with this particular step. Once you've edited that, come down and edit your rejection step. Once you've done that, come back to File, save and check it in. And then you can X out of that. And then you can go into your next workflow. Go into petition this one, view the builder, check it out, find your notification again, approval notification here, we're going to edit, rejection, we're going to edit it, make sure to save, file, save and check in. Next up, I've tried to keep this as simple as possible. I know I'm all over the place, but there's another thing on the forms I wanted to talk to you about. I've tried to keep things as simple as possible. One of the mandatory fields on all of our forms is a title field. You can pre-populate it. So I pre-populated all of your forms with typically the title is the name of the issue or request of the ticket. Like, I'm having password reset problems, and it's usually a free text form for the requester, in this case the student, to fill out. But I try to make it simple for the student and for yourself, and to pre-populate it with the title of the form. There's a pro and con to that. The pro is that all of your tickets will say AB540 request. The con to it is all of your tickets will say AB, they'll all have the same title. Now you'll be able to see the requester, which will differentiate it. But if this AB540 form is requested by 10 students all today, you'll have 10 tickets in there in your ticketing that, yeah, in your ticketing queue, that say AB 540. Um, and so we'll see what that looks like in a second when I run the ticket. But I was um, trying to keep it simple, and I may have oversimplified it, but I just wanted to mention that. We can circle back to that when we see it on the ticket. So those are some of the setup items that I wanted to touch on. I'm going to go back to your client portal now, and I know the requests are not going to emanate from the client portal because you're not going to publicize this, right? Let's pretend, and again, once we get this down,
Excuse me.
no problem. Remember the URL for these forms here. We're showing it to you here, but we're going to put these URLs in your web portal for those forms when we're ready to activate these forms and start leveraging these from a production environment. So let's start with the residency questionnaire. And we'll walk this through its pace. So again, this is where they would land once this URL up here is put in place of that residency questionnaire form in your web portal. Does that make sense? When they click on that link, if your self-registration is set up and your profiles are set up correctly, they'll authenticate and it'll take them to this page here, the residency questionnaire, with this information in here. And then I changed all the buttons to say submit whatever the name of the form is. So here's the residency questionnaire, submit residency questionnaire. And they would click on this. And now this is the first time you guys have looked at all of our fields together. So the requester is going to auto-populate me, right, or the student. The title, here's where it auto-populates that residency questionnaire. Again, I was trying to make it easy so the student didn't have to type anything here. Requesting classification, I'm just going to put fall of 2021. Student ID. Birthplace. I've tried to give examples in all of the help text, and I've opened up all of the help text on these forms. On simpler forms, for those of you who work, IT help desk, on some of the simpler forms, the help does not have to be open. This just means that if the help wasn't open, this example, you wouldn't see this until you hit this question mark. Birth date, you wouldn't see month, day, year until you hit the help button. But I've opened it up on all of these to make it easy here. I haven't made any of these other than the ones that are baked into the tool. Requester and title are mandatory. I haven't made any of them mandatory, but I certainly can, and I'm looking for feedback on you should all of these be mandatory? Should some of them be mandatory? So if you have feedback on these fields and if they should all be mandatory, let me know, and I can just put red asterisks on all of these fields. And that's going to require them to put any sort of text in here. So we gave them an example and we put help in here. So this would be like Santa Rosa, CA. Not that they need to put USA, but that's where I was born, by the way. Month, day, year. The account department, again, from a simplicity perspective, I pre-populated this and I just put in information technology because you didn't have a student account department in here in your tool yet. So I wanted to talk to you about that. If we want to pre-populate this, the account department is a mandatory field. If it will, on your self-registration profile, when you're creating a user record, it should or there should be a place for the account department to go with that profile. If that account department is filled out as part of that profile, it will auto populate to this field here, account department here. So if Mark Martinez is a student and the self-registration profile has his new student user record, auto default to student, then this would auto populate to student right here. If the self-registration profile does not have an account department in here, this would be blank unless this was pre-populated on the form. So Melody, one of your other pieces of follow-up for the self-registration profile is to see, based on your profile setup, that the account department is part of that.
Right. We did
And
import
if
the
so,
department. We did import the department. So all the students
oh,
have the student department attached to them. So, but yes, throughout the
excellent.
testing, we'll see
Good.
that populate, but that's how they're coming in.
Perfect. If for some reason it did not have, either by embedding it on the form or having it associated with the user record, it would just be blank here. It's still mandatory. They would just need to select from the lookup. That's the long and short of it. The easiest way is to have that student account department as part of their user record setup, and it'll auto populate right here. Email address. Are you a citizen of the United States? When did your present stay in California begin? Permanent legal address. And then here's where we start getting interesting from those. So if you have not lived in California since birth, which was one of the fields in there, list your addresses for the last 2 years. So we opened up, this is a text area that we're using here. And the reason I'm using this as opposed to other potential fields is that you can have, this can contain a lot of data in here. And so I've embedded in here address number 1 from 2, address number 2, and they could continue doing that as many times as they needed to in here to cover their addresses for the last 2 years. Does that make sense?
It does to
Is this
me.
easy enough to understand?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. Next, one of the fields is to list your spouse's name. That's just a simple text field here. And then dependent children. So this would, it asks for the ages, not necessarily the name. So I may want to flip these around and say age of child 1. Are they in preschool? Age of child 2, elementary. So it was list the ages of dependent children if they attend preschool or school in California. So that was straight from the form. Again, this is a text area so that they can put, you know, however many children they have, 3 or 4 or 5. Same thing with the percentage of financial support. And I did want to get a clarification on this one. You're not asking them to put dollar amounts in here, are you? You're asking them to put percentages?
Yeah, just
at least.
not
Okay.
not
So I think my example is, so again, right here it says must total 100%. So hopefully they read that. Estimate the percentage of total income received from all financial resources. Example, my employment 50, parents 30, financial aid 20, other, and then again a note, must total 100. So hopefully between this one here and this one here, they'll note, and by the example, it spells it out for them. What do you think? So far, so good?
Looks good.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Here's where some of the magic starts to happen. So your mother's name, you can input last name, first name, father's name, last name, first name. Then we start asking, this is what's called cascading attributes, right? And based on answers, other fields will open up. So is your mother living? If I select no, then it's going to ask date that she was deceased, right? And I can fill in a date here. If I say yes, she's still alive, then it's going to put in mother's permanent address. Number, street, city, state, zip. If in California, how long? So she would put 123 Main Street, Sacramento, California, 5 years, whatever it might be. Then, based on the yes answer here, is your mother a U.S. citizen? And another set of cascading no. What's her immigrant status? Yes. And then the same structure is for the father. Father's last name, first name. Is your father living? Date deceased. Yes. Permanent address. Citizen, no. Immigration status, yes. U.S. citizen. So I believe that matches to that section of the form that had several different check boxes, and if yes, then A, then B. How are we doing with this part so far? Looking good. Next up is this student status, right? So here, this is pretty simple. The 5 that were part of the form, and then other, and then any sort of attachment. I always just like to have this if somebody wants to attach something, even if there's not instructions to attach anything on here. This is the test signature widget that Melody is still going to continue to play with. And so this is what happens when that HTTPS one gets leveraged. All right, I don't think it did what I wanted, but I just wanted to at least try it real quick. Okay. 2 ways to populate this. Let me go back to that ticket. This account department can be populated off of the account department that's defaulted on the student record, or you can embed it, which is what happened here. So if I put in admissions and records, it would show up here for the account department. But I actually want to double check that because I want to see on the ticket that I created, I did not have default account department. I want to see what's the overriding account department on that. I think it's the form, but I'll clarify that and see if we can submit, or if we can put in the admissions and records to default in here. I'll do that for you. On all forms. Okay. So the folks that are in that admissions and records group, they are listed as responsible. So they all got pinged with an email notification. Do one of you want to share with the group what your notification looks like? And then I want you to click on it to show you where it's going to take you. So I will stop sharing, and if Vicky or one of the other ones can share your screen and pull up that notification, we can walk through what it looks like for you.
Sure. Now there's two that came in, Mark. One was a request task assignment and the other one was a service request created. Which one do I go to?
Let's go to the first one because you're getting two because that's expected. Yep, that's expected.
Okay. I'm sharing. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Yes.
So
Scroll back up. Let's walk through it. Remember a couple of minutes ago when we were in the ticketing workflow and in the description of it, it said admissions and records to review documentation and student profiles such as SIOS and TSARV. Note, mark task completed when review is done. That's where that description of what you're supposed to do here is.
okay.
Right? So that's where that shows up. The rest of this is just all the ticketing information, the ID, where it came from, who it was created by, the date, all of that great stuff. Who's responsible for it, A&R. And let's click on the TD Next Tickets link.
Okay.
And that should take you to the ticket.
All right.
Now, we might not see your ticket. It probably open up in another pop-up window. Can you slide that over?
What, this one right here? Oh, hold on. You know what? I had the service ticket open earlier, but now this is the only one showing. I think I had signed in as the administrator. Does that matter on, I think it was.
Nope.
Okay.
When you click on that TD Next Tickets, it should pull up that specific ticket regardless of in TD admin or not. It'll pull you inside. It'll pull the ticket up overall what we can review together. It's just probably in a pop-up window that we can't see.
All right, I'm looking for pop-ups.
No?
Nope, I don't see anything else. Let's see. Nope, launch. Don't have any other pop-ups, Mark.
Try the task link. So we got TD Next, TD Mobile, TD Client, task. Click on that one and see. I don't know if you opened up the other one and clicked off of it already or.
On here or the desktop?
On this TeamDynamix service request, this blue, the one that we're all seeing. Click on the task URL.
Oh, you know what? Well, are you seeing what I'm seeing? I see Imperial Valley College and then it says desktop refresh or print or new desktop.
No, we're seeing, at least I'm seeing the email. Oh, there we go. I just saw it for a second.
No, let me unshare and share. This is what I'm seeing.
Oh, right behind that was the ticket. I saw it there for a split second.
Okay, behind.
Did anybody else see that? You can get to it from here. So go to the application menu right above the refresh button.
Application menu.
And then go to student services, student services tile.
All right. Right here.
And then click on the blue tickets in the left underneath groups.
Right here.
So there it is. So click on the title residency questionnaire.
Do you see that so far?
See, that's where the pop-up is coming, and we're not seeing
Oh, okay.
it.
Let me see if I can stop sharing and then share again.
I think I saw it. I just saw it again.
Let's see.
Share your screen, and then any pop-up that comes up should come in front of the.
All right. You see it there? I see the ticket.
Okay. Here it is. Here
All
it
right.
is. So again, this is the overarching ticket. I think we've seen this before. Just as a refresher, though, there are a number of things that you can do on this ticket, right? And you can see the account department, all of that, where the service, which is the residency questionnaire, who's responsible for it, admissions and records, all that. All this is on the left part. On the right part is all of the information from the people part of it, the requester, and then the workflow and the current activities. The current activity is the workflow, the first task, admissions and records review, which is coming to the admissions and records team, right? So anybody on that team can come in here and click on this. Yep, go ahead and click on it if you want to, or just so what you'd be doing here is you'd be reviewing the information from this particular ticket, right? And you'd be reviewing the data that is captured in the left, which I only filled out a couple of those fields. So see in the left under actual hours, it says requesting reclassification semester, requesting year, student ID, birthplace, Santa Rosa, in the left over there.
Oh, I already clicked on the admissions and records review. It looks like you're not seeing that one.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking back at the main ticket.
All right. All right.
So all of those fields that I mark as mandatory will show up in this left navigation, and it's my thought that's what you guys would be reviewing for.
Yep. Exactly.
For completeness, right?
And so if all of this is complete, we mark complete on the right-hand side.
Yep. Go ahead and let's do that. Go ahead and hit the mark complete button. Okay. And you can put notes or comments in here.
Mm-hmm. So it went to another screen, or did it just update? Oh, at the bottom, do you see the bottom? Changed percent from 0 to 100.
Yep.
Okay, and it looks like another email was sent.
Now you're at that approval step. So scroll back up. Let's show you where we're at in the workflow process. The workflow box will give you two different views to see the workflow and where we're at. The history will tell us the history of it. So right underneath the word workflow, residency history. Yep, click on that. And another pop-up's going to come up, and then we're going to probably miss it again because we're not seeing your pop-ups.
Let me stop sharing and share again so we can see that pop-up. Let's see. There we go.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So this is the steps that it's going to go through, right? The task step is what you just did and completed. Now it's an approval step. And then depending on if it's approved or rejected, it will flow one way or the other, right? Cool. So if you X out of this little window and go back to the main ticket, the other view that says, so one button says history, the other one says view progress. The view progress will pull up the actual workflow, and it'll look just like the workflow that we looked at a little while ago. So your technicians understand that. So either history or view progress will just allow your technicians to see where this is at during the life cycle of this particular workflow.
Cool.
All right, but the current activity is the approval rejection step. So let's go down there and go, okay, I reviewed this material, and now I am going to either approve or reject. So either one is fine. Go ahead and hit the approve. There we go. I see your pop-up. Yay.
Oh, and then it says step approved up at the top.
Yep. And then the next step we see, again, back down in our current activities, shows us the next step, which again, all of this is all of you folks in admissions and records that you're doing it. And I just gotta, because I'm the requester, I got that approval notification. Again, I'm the student. I would have just gotten, let me steal.
And did you get my comment as well, Mark?
I'll show you what it,
okay.
I'll show you what it looks like. The student would not, the student, let's see, let me.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page as far as comments are concerned.
All right, I'm sharing my screen. This is what the student is going to, are you seeing my screen?
Uh-huh.
The approved residency questionnaire. This is, I'm the student because I requested this. And this is the message that I would receive, which is that notification HTML that I want you guys to edit, right? And so this is all they're going to see. They'll see the subject is up here, approved residency questionnaire, and then in the body it will say, dear Mark, and you probably want to put like a HTML parenthesis change there. Your residency questionnaire has been approved at this time, and whatever else you want in there. So the comment that you made is only going to be seen by people inside TD not by the student. This will be all that they'll see. So the next step for, and let me stop sharing and you can take it back over so you can finish this one.
Someone else at this point continue with the next step?
The next step, as far as the workflow, is to record in the student file whatever needs to be recorded there. So let's go back to the ticket if you want to share. And that's the last step. Well, there's actually one more step after the last step. So we're back at current activities is the update student as a resident. I don't know where you guys do that at in some sort of system.
Yep.
So let's pretend Vicki did that. You would mark it complete.
All right.
And now the ticket overall, because the workflow has been kind of a sub component of this overall ticket. So one of the things, and I need to make an edit on the forms, or actually on the workflow. What I'm going to change is, see in the upper right where it says new, green new. On your last step that you just did, I want that to say approved instead of new. So I'm going to change that on the workflow so that once it's finalized, it will say approved there. And then the last step that you all will have to do is to go to the green actions button. So this would be anybody that's in this group. And these are all of the actions that you can do on a ticket. 95% of the time, you're going to be going to the update button. Yep. And then you're just going to put a final comment on this particular. Now, when you did the update button, you got another pop-up that we're not seeing.
Oh, okay, here, let me.
Up. Yeah,
there we go. So you'd want to change the status to completed. Or closed. And then you can put in a comment here.
So normally after this step, we send financial aid an email saying, hey, this student has been updated. Where it says notify other people, are we able to notify not only the student, but somebody else like you, since you're the requester, and then other people here?
Yep, that notify other people would have to be users in Imperial that are part of your TeamDynamix user database in the notify other people.
Or the
But
other
the other email below that, you could manually type in any address down there. So it could be VickyCarr at google.com or that. Yep.
All right. And then this kind of gives you just the information that they submitted. And then just save up here.
Correct. Yep.
David, let me know if you, it stopped sharing. All right. Let me know if you received that message. We're pretending you would be financial aid.
That's a great pretend job. I'm waiting. It just came in.
All right. And then I see up here, Mark, it says closed now.
Yep. And so if that's everything that needed to be done on that residency questionnaire, we're all done. I did want to go back and talk a little bit about that private public comment, and I want to show you what's happening. So I'm going to, for this, I'm going to steal back the screen.
Okay. I lost the stop sharing option here.
I stole it from you.
Oh, good.
I'm going to use this time to walk through. I'm going to show you a couple of different things here, but again, that residency questionnaire that we just walked through the example, the URL is going to be placed in your web portal, and that will fire off, and it'll start the ticket. It'll pull the student into here, and then they'll hit this button, and away they'll go, right? However, if a student were to walk into admissions and records and say, hey, can you help me complete this form? And I'm the technician, or I'm Vicky or Daniel or somebody in that department, I can manually create that ticket inside TD in my student services application. I can come to this plus new button. Again, I have a student that walked over to my desk, and instead of saying, nope, go click on that link and you can do it, I certainly could tell them to do that. Or I could go to the plus new button, and down here under service request, I can grab this residency questionnaire and we can start filling this out. I can pull in the requester's name here, again, which could be me.
That's great. Well, Cynthia does a lot of hand holding for students, which is great. So this is for you to pay attention, Cynthia. You like to help the students, and some students don't have computer skills, so I could see us using that for sure.
I have a question, but I don't know if I need to ask it right now. Everything looks great, but my question is, with this ticket, the students will be able to upload the documentations in this ticket, or we need to request it?
No, there's a place where they can upload any documents of you.
Okay.
So this will be manually, again, like you just said. the technician is doing it, they'd put the student's name in as the requester. You'd want to click on the notify requester that this ticket was done, and then everything here would just start to fire away, right? I'm going to save this, and it's just going to generate another ticket again. And it's going to be in here. And everybody else is going to get pinged once again with a bunch of notifications that
Yep, they just came through.
I got pinged as the, so I created it manually or via the web portal. I'm going to fast track this. You guys are seeing my pop up here?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you a couple of other bells and whistles on here. Again, the tasks and activities tab up here, probably not going to be used all that much, but it's going to show you what the current task is, which is that first task of the workflow, FYI. The people, what's that going to show us? That's going to show us any contacts on here and the resources, which is the admissions and records folks, right? Time and expenses, that can allow you to record time towards this ticket if you want to do that. A lot of times people don't want or need to record time. If that is something that you want to do, we will need to add time types to this, so that then the admissions and records group, if you guys are spending hours on this ticket, you could say, okay, I've worked 2 hours today on this ticket. So let me stop there. Is that something you want to do if you want to add time to the ticket?
Yeah, we don't need that at this time, Mark.
Okay. This My Alerts is a oversight button here that you could add alerts to this ticket when certain triggers happen. We saw there's a lot of tasks on here. So you might want to get alerted when any of these triggers are met. Again, some people use these, many don't, but it's just additional oversight or notifications for when these things would trigger email notifications for you from an alerting perspective. Assets and CIs is just going to list any assets that might be associated with this for student services that's not going to be leveraged. And Red by just shows you who's looked at this ticket so far, which is me and Daniel. Way to go, Daniel. Back over in general, again, we saw all the details that are captured in the ticket, which I didn't fill out hardly anything on it, but the workflow and the current activities is where you're going to be spending most of your time. You can always come in and edit the fields on this ticket if the requester's name is wrong. If you put a wrong digit in the ID, you can always edit any of these fields that are part of this service, which is a nice to have, right? Having that edit capability. You could add attachments here, add tasks. Most likely you're not going to add tasks or task templates because everything's going to be part of this workflow. But you might add an attachment periodically, screenshot of something. All of these buttons here are available for things that you can do on this ticket. For something like these 5 services that we're walking through, you're most likely are not going to be leveraging too many of these items. You're going to be mostly coming in and updating the things you've done on it. But these are things like reassigning the request to somebody for being responsible. So if you wanted to reassign this specifically to James or Jonathan, you could do that, right, to a specific person. You could unassign it altogether. Sometimes people have a unassigned queue that people can't work on things, and it needs to be determined who has availability to work on it. So you unassign it, somebody watches the unassigned queue, That's usually more of a help desk type thing. Again, most of these things you guys won't leverage because you're going to be part of the group that's responsible for these activities. Service level agreements can be set up, and that's just how fast you'll respond to or resolve issues. That's again more of a help desk type SLA capability. So a lot of these capabilities down here are more advanced ticketing features that for these 5 services are probably never going to be leveraged. For example, these setting and creating parents are typically for problem tickets. So like if you have a couple of people are having some sort of networking issues and all of a sudden you get 5 or 6 or 5 or 10 incidents in about networking issues that people are having, you could create or set parents. That would be the problem ticket that those incidents would fall under. If anybody, I know there's people in here that have worked in a help desk before. So that's what those do. Again, I'm just showing you these at a real high level. Chances are you guys won't leverage those at all. You could copy this request. And about the only time that I would do that is, let's say somebody's in my office, and remember I just created this manually, and somebody else just walked in, another student walked in, and I could copy this request and start filling it out with their information. Easier yet, I could just go back over here to the new button and do it, but I could copy it should I want to copy it. Merge into, I would caution the merge into. That's if you have 2 tickets for the same item and you're just going to merge them together. It probably doesn't happen very often. Convert to a project request and convert to a project is most likely not going to happen that often, especially with these types of services. The flag button might be something that you're interested in, and all that's going to do is flag this ticket for me. It's going to mark it as flagged so I can keep a special eye on it. Well, where do I keep a special eye on it? In my student services application, I have this little desktop in here. And I can edit this and house things on here, which I might want to do periodically, right? I can edit my layout in here, and let's say I just keep this one. But I can add content from student services, and the very first one is my flag tickets. I can put that there, and I can put my assigned tickets over here. I could put my assigned ticket tasks, my submitted tickets. When I save this and I refresh, now my desktop is populated. My flag tickets, here's the ticket that I flag for me to keep a special eye on for whatever reason. This one's, it's the same one, but because I submitted it, this is my submitted tickets. For Vicky, you would see for Vicky, anybody in that admissions and records group, the 5 of you would see the residency questionnaire both here and here. Why? Because you guys are assigned responsibility of the overarching ticket, and you're also assigned responsibility for that very first task, right? And I'll show you that.
Hey, Mark.
So the my assigned ticket.
Just on that dashboard, is there a way, like, let's say one of them goes on vacation and someone needs to take over a ticket that's assigned to that person? Is there a way that they can see other technician license or technician tickets so they can pull them and assign them to themselves?
Yeah, you guys will be able to see all of the tickets right here in here. So all of your tickets will flow here at, a couple of months from now, this will probably be 100 or 200 tickets.
Yeah, I was just wondering in that dashboard if there's a way we could see the tickets that are assigned already. But if this is where it is, that's fine. I was just wondering. Because I know like certain dashboards can have different widgets available.
Yeah, absolutely. That can be done too. We'll talk about that when we get into more when we start talking more about your help desk, that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Sure. So back on this ticket, the admissions and records are responsible for the overall ticket. So they're the ones that are responsible to come in here and update and close it out, right? They are also responsible for this little task over here, right? So that's why back on their desktop, if they build their desktop like me, they will see my assigned tickets right here and then my assigned ticket tasks. So ticket tasks are subsets of tickets, if that makes sense. The other thing I wanted to mention was a public-private comments. What does that mean? You saw Vicky when she updated that last ticket, she put comments in here. Let me walk through that process. If I just updated comment area here, no notifications sent, and private. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to save it. All that did was it updated this ticket with the comment in the feed. Up and here, and we can see it right here. Updated, the comments are here, no notifications sent, and private. Private means that only folks that have access to your student services ticketing application in TDNext can see that comment in the tool. So any of you could come into this area, look at this ticket, and see the feed here. But it wasn't proactively sent out, and it is private. I'm going to do another update, and I can do it. This update button here is the exact same as this update button here. I'm going to make another update, and I'm going to put, this is a public comment. What does that mean? That means it will be seen in your client portal. If I deselect the above check box, that's this checkbox here. If I deselect that, this comment will be seen in the client portal. So that's all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to hit the save button. It will be seen still in TDNext. There it is. This is a public comment. It will be seen in your client portal. I deselected that checkbox. So it is still seen here by everybody, all of the technicians or admissions and records people or anybody who has access to student services and your ticketing application in TDNext. When I go out to your client portal, when I click on services, so now think about this through an end user, a ticket requester's perspective. When they come to their ticket requests, here's the one that I submitted, the one that I'm working on right now, and I click on that. This is what the student can see from the client portal if they so choose to come out here or know about it, or other ticket requesters, right? Here's the comment. This is a public comment, meaning available at your public client portal, and it will be seen in your client portal, so by your requester, right? That other comment is not in here. They can't see that. That one's, quote, private, right? So your requester in the client portal can see this comment here, but they can't see this one. And the reason is oftentimes you guys are working on stuff that you guys internally only need to see, right? So things like internal conversations between technicians, right? You guys are sharing IP addresses or other information. The requester doesn't need to see that. It's defaulted to private. And so I could share that internally if I wanted to. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Public, private?
Yes.
So think of the default setting as your internal comments available. Now note, none of these have been sent out via an email notification, right? They've only been they're both of those, public or private, have stayed inside the tool. Down here is where I would be, think of these notifications as email notifications that are going to get pushed from here. So I'm going to change this comment to say, this is an internal comment with notification sent to everyone but the requester. I don't want the requester to get this, right? So I'm going to leave this private so they won't see it in the feed, and I don't want to send an email notification to the requester. So I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to take myself off. I'm going to make sure I don't send this to the requester. So this would notify everybody that's associated to this. So that would be all 5 of those people that are in the responsible group. And it's private. So this comment and the email notification is not going to the requester. So I'm going to save that just so you can continue to see what's happening here. And it'll refresh here. This is an internal comment with notification sent to Cynthia, Daniel, Edgar, Isabel, and Vicky. You guys all got an email about this update, which is what you might want to do, right?
Yes.
Update people that are responsible for it to know that it's done, right? But it's marked private. So again, if I go back out to the client portal from the student viewpoint, or think of somebody else who might be a ticket requester down the road, I am not seeing it here. So I'm not seeing it on my ticket request. So if I come back here, that only comment is still this one here, and the requester here, me, did not get an email notification of that, right? That email notification only went out to the people that I specifically sent it out to. I'm going to do 2 more ones. A public comment with notification to the requester. So I want to deselect this button, and I want to select everybody and just leave it as is. And I'm going to take you guys off just so I can show you this so you guys don't get hit with another. I'll leave it on. So now an email notification is going to go out to everybody, including the requester, and they will see this comment both in the email that gets sent out and at the client portal because this was deselected. So what does that look like? I'm going to save that. The email is going to look, the 5 of you are going to get your email. The requester is going to be able to see it here. Let me come back here. So now there'll be 2 feed entries that the requester will see in the client portal. This comment here, and now the second one, public comment with notification sent. So I can see the comment here, and I just got an email of it as well.
Mark, so it sounds like we're going to get hundreds of emails with different tasks and where they're at, correct?
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
I don't know about hundreds. I guess you could. You could. It just depends on how proactive you want to be pushing out those notifications to each other, right? Because I didn't have to send the email notification to you, right? I chose to do that.
Gotcha.
Right? So you guys got those last two because I did that. If I did this, you wouldn't be getting that email notification. The other ones that you've been getting, you want to get those because it's telling you have a ticket and you have a task on your ticket. These other ones are proactively pushing out email notifications. The one gotcha here with all of this is if you leave this checked, which is private, and that's okay, and I'll call this the knucklehead method. So you put a comment in here like, you know, something you were intending internally, and you saw that this was checked to private only, and then you were in a hurry and you hit this button real quick, and you're thinking that this comment is just going to go to your responsible group, but when you hit this bucket, it's pulling in the requester. I'm going to put in here, did you want the requester to really see this comment? Because even though it's marked as private, let me show you what happens here. I'll take you guys off so you don't get pinged. But because I hit that group button to send a notification out to everybody real quick, now it's marked as private. Here's the comment, but it was pushed out to me, the requester. So in the client portal, I can't see it. So in the client portal, I still only see those two public comments. This was the first one that I deselected that checkbox for. This was the second one I deselected that checkbox for. But because I sent this out to an email, I got this email. Knucklehead method. Did you really want the requester to see this comment? Because it got pushed to them via an email notification as part of this process here. So that's just a be careful about the group button. That's the kind of the long and short of this. Is if you want it to be private, make sure you don't include the requester. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Alrighty. So my notes so far on the residency form to make the fields mandatory. And I'll show you what I'm going to do here. I will show you a couple of things here. So back in TD admin, if you wanted to do this, remember where your forms exist. In TD admin, your forms are going to be in your applications, and then in the student services, and then in the left navigation, they're going to be in the forms. So in that residency questionnaire, anything that doesn't have a red asterisk, I'm going to want to go in and put as editable and required, and that gives it the red asterisk. So that's what I'm going to do. For all of these. And I'll come back and do that so you don't have to watch me do that. The other thing that I want to do is to embed the admissions and records, I think is what Vicky said, as the account department.
Yes.
So if I do this, I want to do that. I was pausing there for a second because I was looking at you have a couple of duplicate accounts departments, and I want to circle back to that topic for a second. Because you'll want to be consistent with that. That will help with that. So accounts departments in TD admin, organization settings, account departments. Here's your list of 53. So you have two here, admissions and records and admissions / records. My guess is you probably don't want this one. You want this one either to have the and signed or the ampersand, whichever one. But you'll always want to make sure that in your self-registration profile, or if you ever use the people import, that the account department that is part of the import file matches letter to letter for your account department name. So if this is going to be your admissions and records, then in your import file you would want it to say admissions and spell out and records, as opposed to admissions ampersand records. Hi, Melody. Well, the people import is not creating the account departments. They have to exist here.
Right, but there was another situation. I think it had to do with the building assignments where we had determined we couldn't change it in TDX and have it retain that change. It actually had to be changed on the Active Directory side, because each time we do the import, each evening, it was overriding any adjustments that we made. So with that logic in mind, I was thinking, well, if the department tied to an individual is listed like that in the Active Directory and we import it each night, then that means even if we change them to admissions and records, that it would just change right back to that other department. Does that make sense? But if we go in the directory and actually change that / to an and, then that should work. Just thinking out loud.
Oh, okay. Any questions on ticket interaction? Because once you get down what you're doing on any ticket, one ticket, you'll be able to do it on all tickets. So all of these action items are going to be similar. With the 5 forms and workflows we're working on, the workflow and the current activities are all going to be very similar, right? So primarily you're going to be, updating the ticket. You're going to be updating the tasks, updating the ticket, and it'll walk you through the current activities. And most of you that are in admissions and records are going to be pretty much rinse and repeat for most of these services. There might be a couple extra steps in a couple of the other ones that we'll review tomorrow and Thursday. But any questions on any of the ticket interactions?
No, not right now.
As part of my notes today that I'll send you with today's recording, I will also send over to you a link to the technician training guide. Whenever you hear that word technician, just think of somebody interacting with tickets in TD Next. So I'll send you the link to to over here. And again, you'll want to make sure that you have access to the TeamDynamix knowledge base area. But this technician training guide will walk you through all of those items that we looked at today and other days, as far as how do you find tickets and interact with them in the student services ticketing application, right? So this little handbook here, I'll send you this link and just make sure that you can access this. And you guys can imperialize it, if you will, right? Because it is a Word document. So it'll have a table of contents and information specific to technicians. And you guys can slap your Imperial logo on here. But it'll just walk you through typical interactions that technicians have, right? Introductory to service management, basics in TeamDynamix, right? Your application menu, what you'll typically see, a little bit of troubleshooting, some of the applications you have access to and what's part of those applications from your application menu. Knowledge base, certainly, and service catalog, you probably don't need to do a deep dive in that, but the bottom half of it is all of the parts of a ticket, ticket fields, classifications, all of this. And then how do you interact with tickets? Here's those action items in here with descriptions on what they are, how you find tickets, how do you filter on tickets. So this is just a great handbook to have for you guys internally to be able to leverage for any technician that's going to be responsible for working on tickets.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mark.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.